Hey, Newt. Hey, what do you think the government's role should be in dairy reform?
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Oh, Newt, nice to meet you. Mr. Speaker, the small changes in all of this equipment makes a world of difference. Just those little tweaks, all the difference. These are great parts. Go over the top of a vine.
Cell phone out.
Go News!
Speaker, how do you feel that form does?
Well, I think it depends on which ones you're talking about. I think they ought to be counter-cyclical, so in good years they don't get subsidized, but I do think you have to recognize that agriculture is very different. And then you have, for example, weather factors that are beyond anybody's ability to deal with. So I think there are, crop insurance, for example, is a very important part of it. But I suspect... sorry about that. I suspect that you're going to see us revisit and rethink. I helped develop Freedom to Farm, which we thought was a big step in the right direction. And if you look at American agriculture today, it's one of the most profitable sectors of the entire economy, and you can see why. It's a very technologically advanced, very sophisticated area.
What about information about water in the valley?
Well, I think we have to revisit the entire way the Fish and Wildlife Service made its judgments. And I would insist that we have some kind of economic rationality, both with EPA and with Fish and Wildlife, because they make random judgments. First of all, in the case of Fish and Wildlife, as you know, the courts have now said the scientific basis of their ruling is very questionable. But in addition, I would just suggest to you that taking drastic situations which lead to massive unemployment by some bureaucrat in Washington is a really bad way to run this country.
What about immigration? You tested out some of the other Republican candidates in the beginning.
Well, I think you have to be honest and you have to be candid about what reality is. I am for controlling the border. I am for English being the official language of government. I am for having a guest worker program that's run by American Express or Visa or MasterCard so that you don't have a lot of fraud. And I'm for pretty tough penalties on employers once you have a guest worker program so employers know for sure who they're hiring. I think most people who are here illegally will go home and apply for a guest worker program. But I did raise the question, if somebody's been here 25 years and they're a grandmother or a grandfather, and they have family here and they've been in the community and they've been paying their bills, it struck me, we're not going to have a voluntary deportation system for people who have grandchildren and children who are going to frankly take care of them. And so I said what we ought to do is have a citizen review board that enables us to get an American family to sponsor it. And if you've been a good member of the community, then you shouldn't get amnesty, you shouldn't have a path to citizenship, but you should have a legal residence so that you can be here within the law. And I think that's a practical, doable thing that gets us to legality for everybody and means that within a few years, if we have control of the border, that the whole system is frankly sustainable.
Mr. Gingrich, when do you want to be president?
I think that we are in great trouble as a country. I think that we need very substantial change in Washington to get back on the right track. Just a couple quick examples. When I left office as Speaker, we were at 4.2% unemployment. Well, if we were back at 4.2% unemployment, we'd be a lot better off, which is why we have a tax program and a deregulation program designed to get us lots of jobs. When I was Speaker, the average price of gasoline was something like $1.18 a gallon. When Obama became president, the price was about $1.86. Now it's twice that. Well, I would like to see us develop more oil, more gas production, be able to get back to $2 or $2.50 a gallon gasoline. I also think the courts are way out of control and are making decisions that are indefensible. So I think you need somebody who understands what America has to do to be successful, somebody who's had an experience of doing it, and then you've got to have somebody who's able to go out and explain it to the American people. That's why I'm running.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
I think it's a complete misunderstanding of modern warfare. The fact is, if you're serving in uniform in Iraq or Afghanistan or any place in modern warfare, you are in combat. Whatever your technical assignment, whether you're a truck driver or you're working with logistics or you're a military police person, you're in combat. And I think that we have to understand that from day one. And we should be very proud of the men and women who put on the American uniform and risk their lives in order to protect this country. And I just think that Rick completely misunderstands the nature of modern warfare by his comments.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Train in California, right here.
Look, I think California's better make sure that it's affordable and it's not just one more Sacramento boondoggle, because the fact is,
Yes, sir.
I am for high-speed trains that are economically rational, but I'm against high-speed trains that become, basically just a large taxpayer subsidy so that a handful of unionized workers have a brief period of feeling good.
Mr. Speaker, can I get your thoughts on...
The Valley has some of the highest employment in the entire country. What would you do here specifically?
Well, the first thing you have to do here is release the water. You currently have a rule by the federal government where the water is passing through the valley to the ocean. Now that is the opposite of what Theodore Roosevelt meant by sound conservation. And it strikes me there ought to be some alternative strategy that allows us to figure out one particular fish without making thousands and thousands of Americans unemployed.
Right on.
And I think this is an utterly irrational program in which Washington bureaucrats set rules. They don't lose their jobs. They don't have their towns become unemployed. And I think that it's a really bad policy to have Washington bureaucrats ruining entire economies with no sense of responsibility.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask you about China.
Speaker, Eric Holder announced that they've recovered $4.1 billion in Medicare fraud.
Yes. Well, that leaves them, based on our best estimate, that leaves them about $106 billion short annually. We believe if you were to have American Express, Visa, or MasterCard run the program for Medicare and Medicaid, you would save somewhere between $60 and $110 billion a year. So at best, he's $56 billion short, and at worst, he's $106 billion short, and they just don't get it. It's not about prosecuting past criminals. It's about setting up a system which enables you to avoid the crook in the first place. Now, we know, all of you know, that your credit card companies keep track and they call you if they think somebody has stolen your card. Well, we don't have anything like that in the federal government because it is an obsolete structure run by people who believe in paper, who work 9 to 5. The crooks all now have iPads and they work after 5. So it's a totally disadvantageous thing. But I would just say to Eric Holder, it beats doing nothing, but it's a minimum of $56 billion a year short, and maybe as much as $106 billion a year short. Thank you all very, very much.